So check it out here. We're at the Skratcher Podcast. We got the crew in the house. PJilla, Justin Jointz, J2, my man Gumbeaux on his birthday. And we got two very, very special guests in the house tonight. If I was to sit here and list all their accolades, we'd probably be here like for weeks going over all the stuff that they've contributed. So rather than me talk about it, I'd rather hear what they have to say about each other. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob.
Right on. Man, I've been thinking about this because I knew this question was coming, or this introduction was coming, I should say. And I was thinking about it for the past 24 hours on what exactly I wanted to say about this guy, because A, he doesn't need an introduction. B, if you're gonna introduce him, you gotta do it right. And what comes to mind before I say this guy's name, this legend's moniker, is 1982. I'm 10 years old and I'm watching Flashdance. And I'm with my brother at the theater, Northern Boulevard. The theater's called The Boulevard on 83rd Street and Northern Boulevard in Jackson Heights, Queens. And I'm at this theater and we know what's coming. Friends of ours that saw the movie Flashdance was like, yo, you gotta go check this movie out. This crew Rocksteady's in it. And sure enough, I don't know, halfway through the film or whatever, Rocksteady, Normski, Mr. Freeze, Crazy Legs, and this guy named Ken Swift were just killing it, murdering it. And as I was saying, before we saw the movie, we already knew who Rocksteady was, because one day, lo and behold, I turn on Channel 13, PBS here in New York City, and a documentary comes on called Star Wars. And that was the first time that I saw Ken Swift, but I didn't know his name. The only person who I could identify with regards to their name was Crazy Legs, because in the shot where he pulls up the card, you see his name, Crazy Legs, this little business card, right? But you see Kenny there getting busy. So by the time I saw Flashdance with my brother at the theater, it was an amazing feeling, because that was us on a screen. You know, Ken was my brother. Crazy Legs was my brother's friends. We all dressed alike. We all came from the same hoods. And so to see us on our TVs and then on a big screen, I can't even begin to describe what that meant to a 10-year-old kid who's the son of Colombian immigrants. And on the screen, I'm seeing kids that, again, look like us, right? Fast forward a couple of weeks after Flashdance came out, I'm at home. It's about 12:30 in the morning. My mom at the time worked at, she still does actually, at this hospital. Actually, the hospital where I was born, Elmhurst Hospital, in here, like a 2-block walk from where I live. And she would come home around 11:30 at night. She worked from like 3:30 to 11. She would get home at 11:30, shower, put on some pajamas or whatever, and then we would watch David Letterman at night together from 12:30 to 1:30. And one night, I'm watching David Letterman, and I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps just thinking about this. And David Letterman introduces Crazy Legs and Ken Swift to promote the movie Flashdance. And it was dope because I wasn't just watching it with my brother who got it. Now I'm watching it with my mom. And I'm telling my mom, this is what we do outside of the building. This is what we do in the hallways of the building. This is what we do when we walk from 89th Street and Roosevelt Avenue to 69th Street, Roosevelt Avenue, where USA Roller Skating Rink was located. This was the epicenter of hip-hop for Jackson Heights, Queens, Corona, Astoria, Elmhurst, East Elmhurst. I'm watching these kids that were on Star Wars, these same kids that were on the big screen at the Boulevard Theater, breaking in the movie Flashdance. Now they're on this talk show. So the guy that I'm about to introduce has been a huge inspiration for me since I was 10 years old. I'm 53 now. We're talking 4+ decades of inspiration, of mentorship from afar. I say that because even though Kenny and I don't really speak that much, I've talked to Kenny here and there. I've interviewed Kenny from my website. But although we don't speak as often as I would speak to one of the members of the Executioners, I watch a lot of his interviews and I just take notes. He's like an uncle to me, man, and he doesn't even realize it. You know what I'm saying? So the reason I call myself Rob Swift is because of Ken Swift. And I mean, I could go on and on about this guy, but I just wanted to share those little anecdotes with you guys because Ken is a special part of my childhood, and even into adulthood, I look up to him. You know what I'm saying? And like, I still feel like that same 10-year-old kid whenever I watch a video of his on Instagram, or whenever I watch Style Wars or Wild Style or Beat Street. I like, in my brain, I feel like that little kid again. And yeah, Ken Swift, you are a god, bro, and what you've done for hip hop is immeasurable, and it's an honor to sit here with you, bro. And I look forward to this discussion that we're gonna have about all things hip hop.
Hey, listen, thank you.
Word.
Yo, that was amazing, Rob. Ken, that was amazing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you guys are not related? I'm just kidding.
Yo, real quick, I just want to say,
brothers, man.
I just want to say, when I started DJing, it was a year after Wild Style came out. Wild Style came out in '83, so I started DJing towards the end of '83, '84.
Okay.
And a friend of my brother's gave me the name Swift. He was like, yo, you should call yourself DJ Swift. And this was like around 1989. 2 years later, when I decided I was gonna start battling, entering competitions like the DMC, the New Music Seminar, Ken's name was in my head because I always liked how Ken had his actual first name before the Swift moniker. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna call myself Rob Swift instead of just DJ
I didn't
Swift.
know that. I did not know that. That's amazing.
Word.
Okay. I'll take a note on it. Yo, that's crazy. I love that.
Man, learning already. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like the 10-year-old kid thing, I could relate to that too, because I think probably like the first time like out here on the West Coast that I probably saw Ken was on Beat Street, like on the USA channel or something. But I think that's a feeling that a lot of people have. Like I remember watching Drink Champs, and like the 2 times I seen Nori break character was they were talking about some ill DJ stuff, and he was like, yo, DJ Rob Swift. And the other time was when they were talking about breaking, he was like, Prince Ken Swift. So it's like, that's the 2 times, the only times that I've seen like Nori turn into like the 10-year-old kid again. So salute to you two. So yeah, Ken, I guess turnabout's fair play. So like, tell us about Rob.
Yeah, so I mean, real quick, you know, I mean, look, man, I'm a practitioner of this wonderful culture that we have. You heard? And it's just like, I've been so blessed all these years. And it's like, it's funny because, you know, I mean, everybody say B-boy, you know, but I actually, you know, the music is the first point. It's the first thing that allowed me to even just understand where I was going with my body and dance, because I wasn't a dancer. So ultimately, with Rob, man, it's so great because we're talking about brothers and sisters, you know, that have continued a true art form of the craft of DJing. You know, this is an art, man, and this is about playing records, you know. And I have a history with my brother Devious Doze. You know what I'm saying? He put me on through his man DJ T and Slimmy D. We're talking the 70s, late 70s. And so my first experience was actually the playing of the music, putting a needle on the vinyl. You know, that was like interesting, you know, and I had done that before. My older brother used to play records on a little tiny record player, and I remember the records he played too. And it's funny. But this was in 76, 77 at my mom's house, my mom's apartment, where we all were squeezed in on 96th Street. But to get to really get to the point, it's when I salute Rob, I'm saying thank you for carrying the tradition of what we did. We all love music and we all get a feeling, So with Rob, I've always been just so respectful for the skills, because when I was doing it, it was just like it was really blending. It was like disco blend, you know what I'm saying? And it was cutting, but it was early. So for me to see the tradition and the evolution of this art form, to me is really amazing. So I salute and respect all my brothers. And Rob, you one of them. Yeah, and I want to just mention this real quick because I know we're not great on time, but I always used to follow you guys, man, and watch you guys, man, the executioners, I was like, damn, these dudes are no joke. Motherfuckers is nice with it. Excuse my language. No, I was like, yo, these motherfuckers is doing it straight, and they keeping the tradition. You know what I mean? Like the names, all the acronyms, everything is proper, and then the cutting and the evolution of the art of DJing and scratching and cutting it up and doing everything you can do with a turntable. To me, that was always impressive. As I've seen, and I'm a DJ. I got my turntables right here in the back, right here. So, I understand it, I respect it. So with you, Rob, I'll tell you real quick, man, it's like, I have a lot of respect. And it's funny how we would connect again in Boys and Girls Harbor on 105th Street in Spanish Harlem. And you came and you guys did a seminar, and I was teaching a small class of hip hop in the after school program after the World Trade Center madness. I couldn't travel anymore, so I had to find a job, and it was right across town from where I lived. And I got this little gig teaching these little kids hip hop, little 10 to 13-year-olds, all culture shit. They only wanted me there for breaking. I was like, nah, we got to bring it all in. So when you guys came and you did your thing upstairs, it was up top. I said, man, I got to bring all these kids to see you guys. And we went to check your seminar and your little course that you guys did. And you guys donated turntables you donated turntables, and they were sitting around for a minute. And I was like, can I get that? And I brought them downstairs to the second floor where we was at, and I started teaching DJing to the kids. So this is the thing. The connection is community, right? It's everything about education, community, and I love that you guys do that and have done that, and I love that connection, because that's always going to stand out for me. How I was like, yo, I was in the back like with all these kids, and I was like, yo, I don't even know, like they little kids, they don't understand, but I was like, pay attention, watch this. And a lot of them young brothers and sisters, they was going like this. So when we got the turntables, they was excited. They was excited about trying to practice the art. So
Kenny,
that's a memory that stands out huge for me personally.
Kenny, do you remember? I apologize for interrupting you, but I want to make sure that I squeeze this in. Do you remember that day? I believe it was myself, Eclipse, and Raider. It was the three of us teaching this class.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know that you were teaching at this school. And you, in your modest way, showed up, and you were sitting in the back of it was like a big classroom. I remember it being a big classroom, and you were in the back. So when we were talking at first, you're just focusing on the people in front of you. And I don't know if it was like maybe 10 or 15 minutes into the workshop that we were doing, I saw you and I stopped and I was like, yo, that's Ken Swift. And I remember you looked at me like, I don't even want you to like keep teaching. But I stopped and I was just like, hold up, that's Ken Swift, like in front of me right now. Remember that shit?
Yeah, I do. And the kids were like, they call me Mr. Kenny. They don't call me Ken Swift.
Right.
Mr. Kenny.
Right.
So they were like this. They're looking at me like
That's like it hit him. It must have hit him
it was
who
dope.
you were. Yeah,
dope.
it was
That
really dope, man. And
appreciate that.
that's a full circle moment. That's a full circle moment for me. This right now is another full circle moment. Honestly, bro, Kenny, and everyone on this podcast, Ken, you've been like an arrow for me since I saw you on Channel 13 in the documentary Star Wars. And then when I saw you in Flashdance, and then when I saw you on David Letterman sitting next to my mom in our one-bedroom apartment, bugging out, like seeing myself on the David Letterman show. This was 1982. Fast forward to 2002, I was on the David Letterman show with Rayted-R, Total Eclipse, performing our song It's Going Down. Full circle moment. You and your whole crew, bro, have been a source of inspiration for me. But you specifically, I get emotional just thinking about it, man, because kids like us aren't supposed to make it out of the ghetto. And you were one of the first examples that we can. You know what I mean? Based just on our raw talent. Dancing on cardboard on a street. You know what I'm saying? Using a turntable as an instrument because we couldn't afford to buy a drum kit or guitar. You were like an arrow, bro, like pointing me in the direction that I've ended up in today as a 53-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? Since I was 10. So, nah, bro, you are a huge inspiration for me, and you've been a big role model for me as far as hip-hop culture and just doing my thing, man, left to my devices, you know?
Thank you, sir. And I'll tell you one time, for all of us listening in, hey, man, I'm a leaf. Man, I just, I got ancestors, I got brothers and sisters I celebrate all the time. I've been blessed, with people before me that have given me that love, so I'm glad to spread it. So that's what we do. We keep the tree growing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're going to keep growing like that. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep growing. So I love what you said. I respect you so much, brother, man. Thank you for your words, man. Appreciate that, man.
No doubt.
Man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Each one to reach one, right?
Yeah, that's how we have to keep it going like that, man. That's culture, tradition.
So was at that class, was that the time you two actually first met?
Ken, I don't know.
I've seen you. I watched you guys, man. So I don't know if I met you before that. Like
it's I don't know, like the 90s and into the early 2000s. I'll be honest with you guys, like I'm older now, and a lot of that time period for me is like a blur.
Me too.
I know. Here are the moments that I remember interacting with Ken in person. It was at that school. That was an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
I remember interacting with Ken at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the late 90s. I think it might have been 1998. We were a part of this big hip-hop summit, and Rocksteady was there. Or, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, you were there representing a different crew.
7 Gems, man. Hey, listen, they invited me and I was like, so let me bring my peoples in. So I brought Zulu Gremlin in with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we was working with, we was doing things, A respect to my brother Zulu Gremlin. If you don't know about my man, he's multi-talented, great brother, who contributed a lot to the culture. So yeah, I mean, that was a moment right there. You're right.
That was another moment. Word. And I remember, backstage, y'all were practicing, like rehearsing your routine. And I'm there standing like inches away from you and Zulu Gremlin. And you guys had a chick with you too. I forgot her name.
Jade.
Yeah.
Big girl Jade.
Yep.
Big girl Jade.
And I'm there. You got to understand, it's like, the first element that I ever interacted with in hip hop was breaking. So, although I'm not a breaker anymore, because it was the first element that I interacted with, my first heroes were breakers, not rappers, not DJs. It was breakers. My brother introduced me to breaking at like 8 years old. And by the time I was 10, I was going to USA roller skating rink, which was right in our neighborhood. It's like a fish market now or something. But we used to go there and watch Rocksteady, Dynamic Rockers, who were from Astoria, Queens. I'm from Jackson Heights. And so that is the element that I fell in love with first. So fast forward to like 1998 circa, I'm at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland watching Ken Swift, my hero, rehearse inches away from me. That, I mean, I can't even put into words what that felt like. I remember Raider was geeking out, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but there was like another guy there that was invited that was professing to be like a historical watershed benchmark dancer. And Ken and them were like, what? We never saw him. And they were like ready to like start like just popping shit. And I'm there witnessing it like, yes, like this is hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, dude, like that was a moment. Obviously the school, you and I have interacted at like Rocksteady anniversaries.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's just a lot of different moments that we had. I don't know when was the first time that we actually met, but I remember that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame incident, and you guys were ready to just battle whoever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was real dope.
That's that hip hop shit right there.
Word. Well, the 90s was this real interesting, and I'm going to keep it short and brief. We were radical, and we were like yelling at the culture vultures, and we was just like, we was pegging people. We were like, nah, man, non-cypher God. You ain't down. You ain't down. G, stop fucking around. Keep it moving. And no, don't lie. Yo, hey, I ran with dudes that didn't, you know, like they didn't care about fame and fortune. They were like, nah, man, I'm from the street, man. Who are you? What?
Right.
They didn't care about getting a check or getting some hits. There wasn't even no phones yet. So a lot of my brothers that in Rocksteady, you know, we were speaking up on behalf of protecting the art form and protecting the culture and being, you know, we were defenders of the culture, you know, and that's why we would call you out, you know, and you know, that's to finalize this, that's the tradition of the elders. From what I remember when I was a young cat, you know, you step out of lane, man, you get checked. People like, nah, man, no, you get checked. The elders be, oh, hey, no, chill. And you get checked. You might get slapped. We're just keeping it funky.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Honestly,
like, I'm keeping it 100. So with me personally, you know, I come from that tradition, and you know, like we were radical, like you said. But that was a moment. You know, I mean, we were angry. Of course we should be. We were exploited.
Right.
So I'll just keep it right there. But you know, like once again, thank you for sharing that, man, because it's so much to it. You know, so much to it.
I got a question. Speaking of Rocksteady, the whole ISP versus X-Men. Were you there, Ken?
The whole what?
ISP versus X-Men.
When we battled Invisible Scratch Pickles in 96.
Was it in New York?
It was at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Or Manhattan Center.
Manhattan Center, I've been there a few times. Okay, so you guys battled who?
The Invisible Scratch Pickles, Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, and DJ Shortcut. Yeah.
I was there. So who did you battle?
We battled the Invisible Scratch Pickles. It was Mixmaster Mike, Qbert, and Shortcut.
Oh, at the
in 96. Yeah, it was at the Rocksteady anniversary.
Yes.
It was like the end of July in
1996. That's on the Houston Street.
Nah. This. Well, so wait.
Hammerstein?
Was it? It was not. Nah, I'm wrong. It wasn't Hammerstein. It was the Manhattan Center, the one on 34th Street.
Oh, that's on 34th Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, of course I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Word.
That was I got that on the go video, like a VHS tape of that years later, man. That shit was dope. We had never seen anything like that.
That battle was actually instigated by Crazy Legs.
Of course.
Yeah, so
Break that down.
we were, I want to say in Florida somewhere, probably Miami. All of us, myself, Rock Raider, Mr. Sinister, Total Eclipse, Mixmaster Mike, Qbert, Shortcut, Alex Aquino, who used to manage the Invisible Scratch Pickles, and Legs were at a restaurant eating dinner. There was an event that took place. And we were eating dinner after the event. And at the dinner, when we were all finished eating, Legs was like, yo, I want to see a battle between the X-Men, and at the time they were called the Rocksteady DJs. And he was like, yo, I want to see a battle.
They switched it up a little bit. Yeah, I remember that.
Legs was like, I want to see a battle, and we were all looking at each other like, oh, fuck, like, why is Legs saying this? Because we were friends, you know what I'm saying? So, like, the idea of us battling each other, it didn't really sit well in the first few seconds of hearing him, you know, slam his fist on the table on some, yo, I want to see the X-Men battle the Rocksteady DJs at this year's Rocksteady anniversary. That's just going to be dope. Like, basically saying this is going to happen. And after a few seconds, we went from like, oh, why is Legs saying this to, fuck it, I'll battle you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened. And we ended up making history that summer, because that battle, I don't care who you are, as far as the DJ culture is concerned, there was no battle that you could compare to that. I mean, these were the best of the best. It was like literally the West Coast versus the East Coast, beat jugglers, funky DJs versus these like space fucking alien scratch DJs. It was an amazing experience, and all because of Rocksteady, Crazy Legs, starting it.
Look at the history that it caused, though. Look at like that idea, just that idea manifesting into.
For real.
We had never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, and from our perspective, we're a couple generations down, right? So we get a hold of this, and this is like the Titans.
Yep.
You know,
Word.
this is
the
Voltron
defining
versus
moment.
Unicron. You know what I mean? It was a defining moment, and it like you mentioned earlier, Rob. We got to see us, like how you got to see Legs. We got to see y'all, right? And so, whereas turntablism was coming out through y'all sphere, it wasn't defined. And then now we had a definition. I was able to show my parents and go, that's what I do, right there.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because to us,
Big Rob, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, ask away, sir.
So outside of all this business opportunity, that my man's smart. He's smart to bring the idea up about battling for his event. So here's the question: were you guys considering battling other DJ crews before that whole episode? Were you saying we want to beat, we're the best? Like, this is B-boy shit. I'm telling you the B-boy shit right here, because if we heard about a crew that was nice, we was like, we want to go get them. We want to go find them. We want to figure them out. So before all this episode, which is great, it's historic, it's beautiful, and he gave you a platform, you know? Well, you know, I mean, the crew, you know, look, I can't mention Crazy Legs without mentioning Rocksteady Crew. We a crew, man. We're not one person, man. Let's understand that. Rocksteady Crew is a movement that was built, you know what I'm saying? So my man gave the platform, correct? So did you guys consider battling West Coast DJs before he did that?
Well, when we formed the X-Men, and when I say we, I want to be clear, I wasn't actually a part of the original 4 core members. In the late 1980s, Steve D, Sean C, Rock Raider, and Johnny Cash founded the X-Men. And the reason they called themselves the X-Men is because they wanted to battle the Supermen. The Supermen were a group of DJs out of Brooklyn, New York that were running things in New York City with regards to, really nationwide, with regards to sanctioned battles. So you had Clark Kent, who was the leader, rest in peace, Miss You Clark, DJ Scratch, Richie Rich, Legends. Those were the core members of the Supermen. And they were the ones that were curating a lot of the DMC New Music Seminar battles. Well, mostly Clark, but Scratch and Rich would judge. And Steve D would enter these battles, and in his mind, the battles were rigged because the Supermen were judging, Clark was curating the battle, and their proteges would be the ones that would advance in these competitions. So it'd be Steve D in a battle and a protege of Rich's or Scratch's or Clark's in the battle as well. Steve D would come in second, and the protege of the Supermen would win. So because of that, they formed the X-Men, literally called themselves another comic book group of superheroes.
Nice. I get it. I get it.
So when I got down in 1991, Ken, I inherited that beef, and I just wanted to battle the Supermen because I was down with the X-Men. You know what I mean? So I would say that crew we wanted to battle, and then we just wanted to get into competitions and battle anybody, whether you were from the West Coast, the South,
there you go.
Canada, Japan.
That's the question.
That's how you made your name.
That's the question I asked.
Right. We just wanted to battle anybody. But honestly, Ken, by the time we retired and 1996 rolled around, we were more focused on touring, making music. And I was, 3-4 years removed from battling. So competition wasn't necessarily on my mind when Legs had instigated that battle between us and them. But then a switch flipped. A switch flipped in my brain. And like I said, within a few seconds of me thinking, those are my boys, I don't want to battle my boys, it became, fuck that, I'll battle them. You know what I'm saying? And we made history.
You gotta make it happen.
Yeah, the 360 that, like I said, seeing that battle in itself was us watching, like when you were watching Ken. You know?
Right.
Exactly. Full circle, man. Full circle.
Hey, Rob, I got a question for you, sir. I heard that battle didn't happen until like 4 a.m. Is that true?
No, well, it's kind of true. So the battle took place in 2 parts. The first part was a group battle. So each group would perform in unison versus the other group. And we did that during the day at Manhattan Center. And that was Cubert's idea because Hubert wanted to showcase what they were doing as a team. And just as a little anecdote, we never practiced together as a team. We were more so a la Rocksteady. If you were battling, for example, in the movie Star Wars, if you're battling dynamic rockers, you don't all start, doing windmills and footwork and CCs and swipes at the same time. It's like one guy goes against one of theirs, you stop, and then another guy goes in to the circle, and then one of theirs comes in and answers the guy from your crew that just danced. That's what we wanted to do. But Hubert was like, yo, I want to make a team division of this battle because that's the shit that we're on. So we battled them as a team. Honestly, I feel like they won that battle because they were experts at it. We never put together a team routine. Then at night, at the ITF battle, at this spot called Twilo's, we battled as individuals. So it's like more similar to what you would see in B Street. Bronx Rockers versus New York City Breakers. One guy goes down, another guy from the other crew of opponents answers, then another one of yours goes down, and then another one of his crew answers. And so that's what we did at night. The individual portion of the battle, I honestly feel we won because that was our forte. That was our specialty. Seminar style, head-to-head competition. So all in all, I think the battle was just a tie. They won the team routine aspect of the battle, and we won the individual round.
The single run.
Yeah.
And I'd like to throw this in real quick too, because I remember hearing at the beginning of that battle, they said how everybody's Zulu, so there's no like declared winner. Like, we're gonna keep it all family, but like keep it in your own, like whoever's opinion, what you feel or whatever, it's up to your own opinion, which I thought was interesting. Like that kind of sparked me like, oh, there's something bigger than all of us.
Look, you know, at the end of the day, we just didn't want it to turn a thing where the public felt that we hated each other, right? Because those were our brothers. But at the same time, as to Ken Swift's point earlier, hip hop in its most authentic form is about iron sharpening iron. And so you can't say no to a battle like that. Even though it's your boys, you gotta battle your boys, because at the end of the day, that's gonna make you practice. And in practicing, you develop your technique. And in developing your technique, you reach your higher self, right? And so we had to do the battle. We just didn't want people to think that we hated each other, because that wasn't the case. Invisible Scratch Pickles are our brothers. You know what I'm saying? We love those guys.
You know, we used to do these things where we would do mock-up battles in our head and in the lab, right? We're like, I even did it against you. Like, I'd be like, what if I have to go against Rob Swift? And our thought process was always, we don't have to beat God. We just got to cut him in the court square and show that he can bleed. You know what I mean? And that's iron sharpens iron right there, 100%.
So I had a question for Ken, and we're talking about how the battle went down in 1996 with Cuba wanting to have the group or like the routine. In b-boy culture though, like when did were routines always around? Like even back in the 70s, or was it all just one versus one?
It's a good question. So when I say the word crew, right? I'm not talking about an all-star brothers come together and sisters, they all want to just join a battle. See, my tradition is, I come from the young city boys first. You know what I'm saying? That was my family, my brothers and sisters, I was 12, 13. So, it's a camaraderie that exists with a crew. Look, and most of my brothers from the YCB came into RSC. When Frosty, so first of all, gotta salute my brother Frosty Freeze. Rest in peace, my brother Frosty Freeze. Look, I mean, I can't even mention anybody else's name in my neighborhood, Uptown Harlem, south of Harlem where I was at, without saying Frosty Freeze and Sundance and Rock City Crew and all these brothers and sisters, that were, and I say sisters because everybody showed up. It wasn't just guys that showed up. So the crew aspect and the routine thing, right? So you can't just, you can choreograph some stuff in a split second, right? If you would people. But when you hang out with everybody every day, and y'all on the hardboard, y'all on the rubber back in the park, you know what I'm saying? It's organic. It's gonna make sense because we're speaking a specific language to each other. We talk about names. We talk about we're speaking a language of movement. And like we're saying, these are swipes, these are sweeps. Let's do two on top. Let's do two on top into a hot swipe into a head spin. We're speaking a language that we're communicating with each other that we understand. This is underground language of the art form. So when you get that right, now you're talking about we a crew. We're gonna go somewhere. We gotta show up. So the routine thing is way before. Like the shoe shine, when a dude throw a little move and you put his knee up and you put your foot up and he shines your shoe, and then he throws the move real quick and you throw a chair freezer. All that stuff is theatrical. It's very so when you think about audiences watching breaking, right? So they're just watching this. Like everybody's not a b-boy and a b-girl in a circle, right? They just came to say, they just wanted to come and see what was happening. So it forms a circle. So this is theatrical, man. It's very theatrical. And this is something that the traditions go way, way, way before breaking. We know this. But things like that, the heartbeat, when the dude falls down, he dies, and somebody comes and resuscitates his chest, and he goes like this, and then he starts breaking. Like all that shit is fun. It's teenage creativity and genius and fun. So the routines became a big thing with a cruise, on behalf of your question. You know, and if you showed up as a crew and you didn't have routines, you wasn't a crew. You had to have routines.
Yeah, word.
Yeah.
Word on that.
Yeah.
Can I go back to the ISP and X-Men battle there? Since it was like a crew and crew thing, going back to was that the rematch? I guess when you guys all went one-on-ones after, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I just realized I didn't answer the question regarding how late we went on. So if I may, real quick, we had the group team battle in the day that probably took place around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then that night they did the ITF battle, which stands for International Turntablist Federation. So once that battle was over, then we had the X-Men versus the Rocksteady DJs
dope.
battle. So that took place at the end of that ITF competition, which was late. I think it wasn't 4 a.m, but we went on, I would say about 3 a.m.
Damn.
So we were tired because earlier that day, we had to wake up early, get to Manhattan Center, sound check, do the battle, then, run around during the day, go to Raider's house and practice up our individual routines, then go to the ITF competition, judge that, and after they judged it and the battle was finished, by the way, Total Eclipse, a member of the Executioners, won. He beat DJ Babu from the Beat Junkies. Then we had our battle. So we were tired by the time we ended up facing the Rocksteady DJs, and they were tired too. But it's a battle, and there's no excuses. And once it was like, all right, y'all, X-Men versus Rocksteady, here we go. It's like, we reached into our second win, and went at it.
Was that the first night of ITF, or?
That was the first inaugural event for ITF.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Because Alex Kino was the birther of that, right?
Yes, he was.
For me, that's crazy with ITF because the first battle that I ever got in was the Seattle ITF where GB won.
Yeah.
And I remember coming over to the hotel with Ace and picking you guys up, but that's the first time I met you. And I walk into the room and it's like, I think you open the door and then Quest was standing right there. And then I see Sin and Raider over there, but they had like that pin light and they were messing with people across the, like that infrared light, and they were messing with people across the street.
Yeah.
But to actually like sit there and try and battle, like I remember my like hand was shaking and, but yeah, it was crazy because the judges were you, Raider, Sin, Quest, and D Styles. But just that was so for me it was like the introduction, and a whole pathway of my life has been that for this. So
Amazing.
Yo, touching on that, Rob, you guys came down after y'all dropped Expressions to New Orleans, and y'all did this huge, I don't know if you remember this, man, we've talked about this before. You guys all came and you did this rave at State Palace Theater in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And me and my homie, shouts out to Tony Skratcher, we were the only two people I think in the building that knew who y'all were, right? This is like a hardcore rave. They threw the lights on and all the like candy ravers were like trying to move out of the light. You guys performed, and I still have it, man. I had the Expressions record, and I hopped up, y'all invited me up on stage, and y'all all signed that record, man. Word. And that's why that representation matters to 360 It, man, because you were talking about how Ken influenced you, seen him on TV and stuff. Growing up in the South, like, we didn't have none of that stuff. And I remember picking up my first X-Men comic book, and there was this cat named Gambit. It was this smooth Cajun, head of the Thieves Guild, you know what I mean? And like, I saw myself in this comic book character. And then just a few years later, here come the X-Men, you know what I mean? So it's this crazy correlation between like comic books and then into turntablism, and then culminating like meeting you guys in New Orleans for the first time. I can't remember what year that was. That's gotta be like 98, right?
Yeah, it had to be.
It's gotta be 98.
Touring. Yeah, we started touring 96, so
Yeah,
I'd say probably 97, 98.
97, 98, yeah, man. And you guys murdered it. Like, you absolutely killed it. and everybody in the audience was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on, man? And me and the homie Ben were just like, yeah, this shit is dope. Yeah. And they had no clue what you guys were doing, but for the, performing for a crowd of 2, man, you guys murdered it, man. You influenced us a lot.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Those are some great years, us touring, and we weren't necessarily tainted by the industry just yet. We were just having fun, young kids in their 20s touring the globe, similar to the way Rocksteady did in the early 80s, and I actually would like to ask Ken Swift this. Hip hop now is such a big industry, right? It's this billion-dollar commodity, and the practitioners responsible for planting that first seed is the breaking element, not the DJ element. And I'm a DJ, not the rapping element, not even the graph element, because I feel like graph writers are more incognito. They didn't want the exposure. They wanted to be discreet. They didn't want anyone to know who they were. They just wanted you to recognize their art. But breakers were the ones that were touring, and they were the ones that were the custodians of the art, explaining what it is that hip-hop is. Watch Ken Swift and Crazy Legs on the David Letterman show, and you see David Letterman is asking him questions.
Ken, what is the origin of what you guys are doing?
Well, we started out when we was younger in the streets. And it all evolved from, street jams.
What now? Exactly what is a street jam?
So, a DJ comes out with turntables.
Yeah.
And a mix and everything. Start playing music. Everybody comes. Start dancing.
But who was the first guy to decide that he could spin around on the street like that? How did that happen?
Everybody started doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
And all that from it was taken from a lot of different dances, right? Then it was combined into one.
Yeah.
Then from there, we developed our own original styles. So right now, we're the last of the original dances that still dance.
They're literally, as kids, the custodians, the shepherds of this culture, right? And I wanted to ask Ken, what does it feel like to know, or did you ever consider that you guys were the ones that sort of provided the world with a blueprint for how to take this outside of the Bronx to Japan, Canada, to London, to Germany? How does it feel? Or did you ever consider that?
So there's a few things to consider. All right. First of all, we were a group of guys and girls, like many in New York. We just happened to get these opportunities. Let's start there. Okay. There were a lot of crews in New York. They were great. Everybody was doing it. We got the opportunities, right? So, for us to be able to do the New York City rap tour, let's talk about that real quick. That was the big one. And everybody needs to really understand what happened there, because it was exposing all the elements of hip hop culture at one time. So when, that happened, I was so young. I was with my, rest in peace, my mentors as a young kid that were in their prime. I'm going to talk about Dondi. I'm going to talk about Phase 2. I'm going to talk about Futura. Like I can't even explain to you what that meant to me as a young brother. Being there, I was quiet. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even have a conversation. I was among the gods of this culture, and I was blessed. But I was also this young kid with skills, rock steady. We was doing our thing. When it came about to keep it moving forward, Rocksteady got the exposure because we got grabbed through that whole connection with some people that had connections with Europe, you know, so we did this pop single. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it, let's just talk about it. You know what I mean? Like they said, let's package this. So basically the thing about breaking, right? It's visual. There's no language barrier there. You know, like with rap, I feel like rap was the main thing in Europe. Because there was, Flash was touring. When we got there, they had flyers all over Europe where we was at about Flash and the Furious 5. It's a rap thing. But see, you know, and that could happen in England, maybe not in Germany or wherever, but, you know, people speak English. The thing about breaking, what they did is they packaged the whole shit visually. You know, and breaking was something that was really extreme to visually watch. So, you know, that, you know, you don't have to speak any language in the world to see that and identify with it. That's why breaking was so powerful, and you're correct about that. But I think that rap was the big deal that really launched it because of music television, you know, and a lot of things that, you know, were exposed prior. So what they did is they put the whole shit together with graffiti and you know, and they got black and brown children, you know, brothers and sisters over here, and let's put it together and throw it out in the world. So we were the ones that had that opportunity. That wasn't us choosing that. That was the system and the business pushing us in that direction. Do I like it? Never gonna regret it. That shit is corny. Hey, you, the Rocksteady Crew, all that shit. Like, seriously, like as a kid, we was just going with the flow, man. We were happy. 17, 16-year-old kids, man. What? You know, but, you know, like, when you really look at it, it's like, damn, man, that's not really actually what we about, but all we wanted to do was break. So that's what we did. So that translated. Everything else did.
Yo, you know what though? If I may just interject real quick, I just, as a fan, I just feel like, yeah, you had Grandmaster Flash in the Furious 5, you had Soul Sonic Force, Africa Bambaataa.
Yep.
But I honestly just do not recall, and we have YouTube now, so we could actually verify this, but I don't recall, with the exception of Bam, I would say, I don't recall really seeing interviews with the Furious 5 and Grandmaster Flash and them breaking down the culture. And I just feel like if you watch that David Letterman interview, you, Ken, and Legs are breaking down the culture on late night television for people in New York, people in Nebraska, people in Texas, people in Idaho, for the nation. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like that to me is huge, you know, and maybe I'm a little biased because I started out as a breaker and I just have an affinity for breakers, but I just personally feel that that element of hip hop is the one that is unsung from a perspective of showcasing the culture and exposing it to the world. I feel like it was breakers first. Watch Buffalo Gals. Was there a rap video, or I should say hip hop video, because that's not rap. That video to me is hip hop. Was there a hip hop video before that? I don't think so. The only other video that I can think that might have come out before Buffalo Gals is Rapper's Delight. And Rapper's Delight is not a hip hop video. That shit is three guys that, with all due respect, weren't authentic rappers. They were guys from New Jersey. And they're in a nightclub with people dancing disco. And so again, I just feel like your era, Kenny, the era that made it to the media, is responsible for introducing not just the art of breaking, not just that element, but the culture as a whole, you know? And like, obviously, you guys weren't in control of how it was being presented because you had managers and news networks interviewing you, telling you to dance and telling you when to talk and all that stuff. But still, when you break it down, I can't think of any rappers or DJs that were the shepherds of this culture the way breakers were. And so for that reason, I just feel like, you know, people need to think about that. Stop and pause, like, yo, actually, breakers were at the forefront of exposing this culture, not just the art of dance, but the culture of hip-hop.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I started off as a b-boy.
Yeah, word.
Yeah,
Yo.
I did too.
Yo, Rob, in building on this, I have a question. So fast forward some years, we're talking about kind of like the industry and how it was treated, right? When you guys decided to do this thing with Linkin Park, man, I kind of credit that with being like, I mean, I can't think of what's another video that had turntablism at that level, that just wasn't done yet. I always say to my brothers, like, when Mixmaster Mike, this is years later, but when Mixmaster Mike went on and opened for Metallica in those stadium arenas, right? That's up there. But like, past that, like, you guys, when y'all did that, like, what was some of your thought process? Like, was those conversations going on in your head when you guys talked about it and was like, yo, we have an opportunity to bring turntablism to the world, Because can anybody speak of Buffalo Gals? The Linkin Park video was the first time I ever saw it. I'd saw it before, but it was underground on that level, man. So key me into some of the thought process behind the crew when y'all talked about this. Like, what led y'all to make that decision, man? Because it was huge. It was huge.
Big ups to Sean Kane, an original member of the X-Men, whom at the time was the A&R of our project, Built From Scratch, which featured It's Going Down, Linkin Park fame. They were just starting to blow up. We had no idea that they were going to be this platinum selling rock rap group. We just were in the studio. Sean C walked in to our session and was like, yo, there's this new group called Linkin Park. They're dope. Listen to their album. And we stopped for like about a half hour and we were just skimming through the album. And by the time we were finished, Sean was like, what do y'all think of this kind of music? Because this is when rap rock was just starting to bubble. And we loved their album. And the fact that Mr. Han, their DJ, was scratching on every song, like cutting it up and getting busy. Not no corny shit. And so we were like, yo, this is dope. Sean was like, I think we should reach out to them. And actually, I've been talking to them. You know, we didn't know that he was kind of like in the background, sort of like planting seeds for this to possibly happen. But he wanted us to hear the album first. So once we co-signed the album being dope, Sean was like, yo, Rob, I want you to call Mike. And Mike Shinoda, we gave him a call. I'm the one that actually spoke to him at the session. And Mike was like, yo, you guys are fucking dope. And we'd love to collaborate with you. And that's how that happened. And I'll wrap up my answer by saying this. We knew that we were on the verge of propelling turntablism to the mainstream. And I personally remember how the industry took breaking. You know, I'm talking about breaking because we got Ken on here, and I know Ken can vouch for me when I say that these were kids in the early 1980s through, let's say, 1984, early 1985, that were having fun exposing this amazing dance to the world. But behind them was the machine that was milking and wringing as much water from the dance as they possibly could. You know what I mean? I remember seeing commercials with like fucking Fred Flintstone fucking breaking and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it became this thing that if you were a capitalist, you wanted to capitalize on. You feel me? And so I remember what that did to the element of breaking, because by the time, and I don't mean any disrespect to my West Coast folk, but by the time the movie Breaking came out, that shit to me was not, at least being from New York, being from Queens, looking up to dynamic rockers who were from Astoria, Queens, looking up to Rocksteady who were from the Bronx and Manhattan, and coming down to Jackson Heights, the battle dynamic. Like, Breaking, the movie, was not an authentic representation.
Yeah, that shit's corny as fuck.
Yeah, man, no disrespect taken,
you know what I'm
man.
saying? So the point that I'm trying to make is this conversation is really deep, and having Ken on here is dope, because when we were about to record Linkin Park, our whole thing, me, Raider, Sinister, Total Eclipse, being kids that were influenced by Rocksteady and Dynamic and Floor Masters, we wanted to make sure that we were being authentic and that we were not letting the machine dictate to us how to present this culture that came from poor kids in the Bronx, New York. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to make sure that we were doing right by the Ken Swifts and the Grand Wizard Theodores and the graph writers like Tracy 168 and the DJs and the people that were curating these amazing events for kids like myself to watch and be a part of. We wanted to do right by that. So we were very careful in how we presented the culture, and that's why when you watch the music video, it's tasteful and we didn't compromise ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And I could look back at that video and be proud and be like, yo, we did right by DJing and hip hop.
That's 100, bro.
Can I ask like a nerdy question for both of y'all? I know, obviously, Rob mastered at the cut. Ken, are you cutting as well as since you got DJ gear? Do you cut as well, or do you correlate cutting to b-boying? You know what I mean, like structure-wise, like going from this to that. You know what I mean, like 6-step to a 90 or something, to a headspin or something. Like the way I look at it, like cutting-wise, is like structure from like transforming to chirps to flares to God knows what. You know what I mean? Do you think of structure that way as well with cutting? I don't know. I'm thinking like hella nerdy, I guess.
Oh, that's a great question. Really good question, and I'm so happy to talk about this because, you know, I started on a D1, direct drive techniques, with up and down Gemini. Wow. And a Pioneer turntable. That was Doze's crib. That was Doze. It was his house, and we fucked with his dad's records, and we tried to figure out how to find shit. DJ T from the Bronx, my brother, you know, I haven't seen him since that time. He was the one who blessed Doze and put us on to what the Bronx was doing. We was uptown Manhattan. So to me, you know, personally, I grew up in a house of music. You know, my mom played music. I spoke about this all my life. How music is something that is a part of me as a human, and it's something that even if my mother wouldn't have played it, it's from my family. You know, my Boricua, you know, like my tradition of where I come from. You understand? It's a soulful thing. It's something that's passed down spiritually. So with me, I always heard it. I loved it. But when I was like, okay, you could play a record and do these things with this, I was like, oh shit, you know, it's cool, you know? But it was always about the music. So to really zoom in on your question, the music is the key to my creativity. When I was DJing, I was following suit of the brothers and sisters that, you know, I was paying attention to the cassette tapes. I was listening to Flash and them, mainly Flash, a lot of Flash. Grand Wizard Theodore, you know what I'm saying? I was getting these tapes from my dude from the Bronx. So all we could do was listen. We couldn't really see, but that vibe and that craziness was crazy. So when I started cutting, right? Because I was DJing before I broke. I was DJing first before I was a B-boy. Those, you know, you could see the stories about me, and so, you know, that whole experience. But, you know, to be what I learned that, and this is what I try to tell people when I teach classes and I explore, you know, everybody's new evolution of what this world is with breaking. I say, do you play an instrument? One. I've said this for 20 years. Because I used to play drums and I used to play bongos and all that shit before DJing. Not theory, I just freestyle with it. So the thing about this is that the reason why I feel like I became good at breaking was because I understood the job of the DJ. I understood the job I understood what it meant. I understood time. I understood how to cut that, scratch it, bring it in, bring certain things in that weren't meant to be and bring them in. Like all that shit was interesting to me. And I learned that from the elders. So to me, to have that art and skill, I understood when I went in the fucking club or in the jam, your man was ready. I understood. Whoever was cutting, I knew what it was going to do. I kind of knew. So that made me great at understanding music and time. And it's percussion, actually. It's really percussion. So for me, that was the big deal. So to answer your question, to be a DJ and to have that skill helped me out as a b-boy. That's one thing I would always share that with the world. Understand the job. Get on turntables, man. This for my b-boys and b-girl sisters around the world. Cut some records up. Understand what it is. Because y'all not dancing to records anymore anyway. Y'all dancing to some other shit right now.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth, Kenny.
Hey, I'm going to keep it right there.
Yo, what Ken said is beautiful, and it's interesting at the same time because when you watch Kool Herc interviews, he always says this.
One night, I'm waiting for the record to play out. I said, I wonder if I put that to myself. I said, if they're waiting for this particular break and I have a couple more records that's got the same breakup in it. I wonder how would it be if I put them all together. And I told them, I said, I'm going to try something new tonight. I'm going to call it a merry-go-round.
Herc's merry-go-round meant that instead of playing whole records, he would play just the instrumental breaks, mixing between them to create a continuous dance rhythm.
I started out with dance around, clap your hand, stomp your feet. That part right there, when the break, boom, I had to come in with bongo rock. Still no vocals in it, and I would go into Baby Yui, the Mexican. And it was like, whoa, I think we got some hit, because people was like, oh, whoa, everybody was like, yeah, I'm feeling this, oh, yeah.
The instrumental breaks on the records became known as the break beats, and Herc's merry-go-round formula of mixing between them provided the blueprint for a new music.
So the point that I'm trying to make is, if you watch Kool Herc and hear him say in an interview that what inspired him to come up with his merry-go-round technique is the breakers, then you can't deny or dismiss the synergy between the dance and the DJ. They're synonymous with each other. Mm-hmm. Literally, the DJ element of hip-hop equals the breaking element, and the breaking element of hip-hop equals the DJ element. They're one and the same. They may not use the same instruments. A DJ relies on two turntables. We're talking authentic hip-hop. Right. A breaker relies on his or her body, but the synergy that takes place creates this symbiosis, this symbiotic energy, and because of that, eventually rappers were able to rap. You know what I'm saying? I say that because if it wasn't for Kool Herc developing his merry-go-round technique, because he was inspired by breakers, or at the time rockers or b-boys, you wouldn't have DJs like Grandmaster Flash building on the merry-go-round technique and creating his quick mix theory, which is basically extending the break part but on beat, right? So that a rapper can kick a 16 bar verse, right? So the synergy and the connection between breaking and DJing, I mean, that to me is the apex of what hip hop is. And without that relationship, you probably wouldn't have rapping when you really think about it. And Ken, you referenced tapes earlier. I got the tapes, bro, still. This is Hollywood, Eddie Chiba, Grandmaster Flash,
Eddie Chiba,
1979.
Harlem.
I got, yo,
Reggie
Grandmaster
Wells,
Flash tapes.
There's a lot of brothers, man, sisters doing their thing.
Word, back then in the 70s. And these tapes educated me sonically. You know, my brother would sit me down and explain to me what Flash was doing, how he was catching the beat, why he was catching the beat. You know what I'm saying? So that a rapper could get busy, whether it was Melly Mel or Curtis Blow. But the thing is, you don't have that without Kool Herc being inspired by the dancers. And so I'll always show love and pay homage to the breaking element whenever I get the chance, because these are things that I feel go over people's heads. It's like we watch a documentary and you might hear about breaking for like a few minutes, and then it's on to rapping and the rap industry and whose album sold the most. And it's like, yo, you wouldn't be rapping if it wasn't for these DJs creating these techniques because they were inspired by the rockers, the dancers. The last thing I'll say about that is, if anyone doubts the synergy between the dance element of this culture, breaking specifically, and DJing, watch Rock Raider. Rock Raider literally breaks on the turntables.
Yes, he does.
His body tricks, the way he moves, the way he incorporates different parts of his body. For example, we have a trick that we call the back trick, where your hands are sort of crossed over your chest, but you're using your spine to move the crossfader. That to me is similar to a backspin on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So breaking and DJing, as Ken said earlier, are one and the same as far as I'm concerned. And that's really, to me, the nucleus of this culture, the dancer and the DJ.
With all this being said, right, do you think the original B-boy is the DJ?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say the original B-boy is the DJ. I feel like the original B-boys are the B-boys, right? Because this is the term that Herc coined to describe these kids that were dancing at his parties, right? But what I will say is that the DJ and the B-boy inspire each other. You can't have techniques like the merry-go-round, like Flash's quick mix theory, which literally are the cornerstone techniques of rap music, without a B-boy. Because Herc literally was inspired not by Coke LaRock grabbing the mic. He never says that in an interview. What Kirk says is he was inspired by the dancers. So breakers inspired his merry-go-round technique. Flash refined the merry-go-round technique and figured out a way to keep these breaks extended on beat so that a rapper can rap over the bed of music that he was cutting up. Without the B-boy, you don't have any of this shit. That literally is the first seed.
The genesis.
Yes, so Ken,
as far as I'm concerned, you know?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but so Ken, when Rob's talking about, you know, when the B-boys were going off and they're rocking, you know, and those certain parts, can you break down what actually happens during, like, you know, one of the classic songs, and people are rocking, and then they start to go in on that break? Can you kind of like elaborate on what Rob was saying?
Well, you know, like on behalf of what was just said, there's a lot with Herc and everything. And Herc is, I'm so grateful to know Herc. He's a friend of mine, and you know, we've hung out. I've had some great experiences with him with dancing and just being a part of what he does. I wasn't there in the beginning, so I can't comment on how and what that was. But to tune in to Rob, what he's saying is correct. It is that beginning moment. You know, when you talk about the A1s, you're talking about these dancers for Herc that were just like responding to what he was playing. So he's the conductor. He's the person that's bringing the music for the people, and he understood it. So he's a genius in that, in his own right, to understand how, you know, pay attention to the audience. You know, like, because like a lot of DJs, you know, we know what it is. Like, motherfuckers want to play what they want to play and don't care what people think. He paid attention, and this is the birth of hip hop culture to me. The music is the birth of the culture, you know, and music has existed prior. So, you know, when we're talking about these early A1s, we're talking about people that were doing, you know, they were rock, and they called it going off. They called it a lot of things at that time, you know, rock, or, you know, they called it, you know, the go off, you know, the boy you're going. There was a lot of terminologies in that time period that I've heard from Grandmaster Cash, my brother DST, a lot of good brothers I know that, you know, we spoke about these things, man, that what they remember, you know, because once again, they're a leaf from a tree, you know, so I'm just carrying suit with what they're saying. When it comes down to just getting down to the break and everything about that, we're talking about context, which is the DJ's job, you know, in my generation was to play music for the people. You understand? So as a DJ and the MC, I'm gonna call him a rapper. I don't even remember MCs, master of ceremonies. I remember these MCs, these nasty ass MCs from all these cassette tapes. I was like, these dudes nasty with the slang. The slang, everything fell into place with everything about you, the fashion, everything was crazy. So, you know, but what it was is that, you know, there was a context to where there was a time to break and there was a time to chill. You know, a lot of motherfuckers don't understand this shit now. You know, it's like people break into shit. I'm like, what are you doing? That's my opinion. No disrespect. And I will get criticized for saying that because I see a lot of videos. There's a time to break and there's a time to chill. And that break is an interesting moment that was picked wisely by this musician, this DJ. He said that, or she said, this is really fucking dope. I want to try this. And that's what Herc did. Herc tried shit. You know, like it wasn't radio music, you know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, me also digging when I was 13 and 14, I knew what it was, man, because I got rhythm, I got soul and spirit. There's something inside of me that says, that shit is nice, you know. So I always felt that. So when it came down to it, it was that moment that you would break. And you didn't have to, because everybody, like, you couldn't hold back. When Herc explained the breaking point, he was talking about you couldn't hold, just, you know, you were hearing some shit, you couldn't stay still. You had to jump in. And that's breaking. And it's a great thing that he says. I mean, you know, everybody has their terminologies and references and ways they explain it. But I felt that. I felt like that fucking Apache. When I heard Apache, I was like, man, what the fuck is this shit? I gotta rock this motherfucker.
Oh, that.
You see? You know,
Yeah.
and you know, and look, we had that on Arawak, 12-inch, blue label.
Yeah,
You know,
I have it on Deltone.
See,
And on the flip side, they spelled it messed up, but it's Bongo Rock.
Bongo Rock, yes.
Yo,
That's the 12-inch
Bongo
that
Rock,
they
yeah.
sold.
Bongo Rock, yeah.
Yeah, in 79 when we bought that, it was the 12-inch that was back and forth on the side. And, you know, you got to credit, Oh, my mans, these super disco breaks, what's dude's name? The man that put that all together. Anyway, my brain is just slow right now. But all that shit was influential to us because we wasn't understanding the choices DJs made in the Bronx and in other neighborhoods, on how they played music, until Paul Winley, of course, and all that came about. So my thing is this. When I heard those songs, look, when I went to a party, we danced, and you was hip, and you wanted to get a little somebody, understanding that you nice with yours, you danced. You understood the context of the music. But when that shit came on, motherfuckers spread out. Motherfuckers knew. Dance to the drummer's beat. When that shit came on, and the parties I went to, that tempo is just extra. It brings you up. And if you're dancing with it, go, hey, dance, and it's like that shit, that break, all those instruments, that shit is magical. And that was the moment. So, that's what it was. It was about understanding that moment. It wasn't about like I would DJ and I would cut and blend records, That was cool. But I wasn't trying to break to them shits. I was just trying to chill and do what a DJ does. So with the cutting aspect, with Flash, I'm going to give it to Flash. I'll give it to him. Even though I'm not from his generation and era, and I can't speak on him. I don't even know him really. But what I heard on those tapes, I never heard in my life before anywhere. That shit, all that fast moving, I can't stop cutting up, I can't stop. And it felt like it was a higher speed. Those horns and all that shit coming in, that shit was like a car crash. I felt like I just had to go off. And that's why the connection is so interesting. It's so interesting. Instruments, it's vibrations, it's music, it's powerful. And some of us have it and some of us don't. That's why not everybody's a B-boy. Not everybody can do this shit. Because you got to be crazy to do this fucking dance. And just really get into it spiritually with them drums. That shit is powerful, man. To this day, I knock on wood, man. Like, straight up. When I hear shit, man, it just brings my spirit whoop, somewhere else. It's crazy.
Yo, Ken, I wanted to ask you something. About a minute or two ago, you were like, I'm not from Flash's generation, right?
Right.
As an elder, this is a question that I've been asking myself for like the last 6 seasons. This is a question that I've been asking myself for the last 6 years, especially with all of this controversy of, who started hip hop and first generation breakers were Zulu Kings and this, that, and the third. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on what constitutes a generation in hip hop culture? Is it 1 year? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? What would be, in your opinion, one generation?
So I'm going to take a breath in and listen to what you just asked, because I may not be able to answer that question. I can only give you my opinion. Because in my research, when I have done my research on behalf of the 70s, right? The socioeconomic situation in New York City and everything that was revolving around the world and the city and craziness was happening. So you had people that were existing, right? So they wanted to dance, they wanted to live, but life was fucking crazy. So we can say a generation could have been 1 year for the A1s, or 2 years. Vietnam, all the shit, the wars in the 60s, all this shit reflecting on families, right? I reflect on my generation as a 4-year period.
Okay.
4 to 5 year period. And that's all I can do with you.
Interesting.
With your
so
question.
you're saying This is interesting. I never looked at it that way. So let me know if I'm right. You're saying your generation maybe outlasted the first generation in terms of period of activity. Is that what you're saying? So in other words, are you saying your generation, right, is like 4 or 5 years? The first generation might have just lasted 1 year. Is that what you're saying?
I'm questioning that. I'm saying, what are we talking about right now? Because once again, I wasn't there, so I can't really say anything. But I would say through my research, right? These moments of time happen at a moment, right? Then you have the mid 70s, right? There was a moment. Right. And then you have the late 70s, right? You have these moments, right? So if you divide that between 3 years each, you could say, oh, 3 years is this one, but that's not the way it really works. Right. Because the A1s weren't doing exactly what the mid 70s was doing. Right. But it evolved. The young kids, the young brothers and sisters was picking up on this shit, and the mid 70s to me, it was really kind of moving itself to become what my generation is and which is the generation that completed the art form. My generation from 77, 78 up, to me personally, when the fast spins and all that crazy shit came into play, that's when it was complete. Because footwork was the key. The groundwork, the concrete, all that shit was that's we could talk about Smokatron, Zulu Kings. We could talk about a lot of ground bricklayers from the Bronx.
So that's, and you're saying bricklayers 74, 75?
I can say that the bricks were laid from the A1s, right? But it changed from 70, 72, 73 to 79, 78, 78, 78. Let's say 78, in my opinion. Because when I seen breaking, I seen it raw, but it also came in hard. I learned breaking from Frosty Freeze, man. I didn't learn it, but I seen what it was. I had to follow suit to these black brothers that was getting down on the block. I had to figure it out. I couldn't ask them questions about, yo, when did that shit start? Yo, was it 72? None of that shit was a conversation.
No one cared about that shit.
No, it was about, are you down?
Right.
Can you get down?
Right.
That's all it was. And if you chose to jump in, you're gonna get your question answered. You whack, you suck, or you don't, or you nice.
Got you.
So my thing is, generations are interesting, and it requires a person from that moment. Let's say if you spoke to somebody from 72 to 75, what was their experience? From 75 to 78, what was their experience? There's a lot of fucking a transition with this shit, especially with the Latino influence that really was so interesting and powerful coming up, like alongside of that. It was something powerful, and that's what I experienced. But I experienced it through my black brothers. And then when I seen my black Dominican brothers and black Puerto Ricans, I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? Oh, I was all fucked up in the head. I was 12 years old, 11 years old. I was like, oh damn, this dude don't speak English. And he's nice like that. So my whole brain changed. So generations mean something to the specific person in their time. I think that my generation is the generation that squeezed everything together to become what it is today. When you talk about top rock, footwork, spins on all parts of the body, things you do in the air, and freezes.
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna say that terminology. That came later. We're talking about these 5 components right here. And if you look at the Oxford Book of I did a chapter in the Oxford Book, Oxford Handbook of Hip Hop Studies. I had the opening chapter. Thank you, Universe, for giving me that opportunity. I broke it all down, and I talked about it, and I spoke on it, because this is what I remember. When it all came together with those fast spins and shit, the dance was footwork. It was footwork and groundwork. It was freezes and gestures, and postures, and it was fucking radical, sloppy, hard, rough, dirty. But when that shit came with the gym floor and everybody started spinning and shit, that's my generation. So that's when it all came together. So I can speak on a generation to answer the question.
Yeah.
Only from sincerity. But I can't speak on 74 to 77. I can't speak on 72 to 75. And those are great questions.
78 to 84, though.
Yeah. I could talk about all that shit. Hell yeah.
78,
man.
78, right?
With
78.
77.
77.
Yeah, I think 77. I was seeing it. I did it in 78. I already seen it, but I was scared and shit. I was playing Little League baseball in the park, and I walked by that shit a bunch of times. I was nervous. It's like, what's up? You know, this shit was really aggressive, like flipping, doing backflips and shit. You know, on the concrete, like round off somersaults. Like I seen it, but I understand it until I met Doze and some Nelson and Ty Fly. When these brothers was like, they made me feel comfortable. I understood the environment because I became a part of the environment.
Could you agree that you're just generation 2 then? You would be 2?
I would say 3.
3? Say 3?
Yeah, third generation.
If you call 3, because I look at, 3. Yeah. And then Rob, just real quick, would you kind of correlate to 3 too then for us?
No.
What would you
think
say, 2?
Kenny said something. No, me too? Hell no.
Yeah.
Kenny said something. Kenny worded something just like 30 seconds ago in a very interesting way. He was like, I was there to see generation 2, but I wasn't necessarily involved or active. So I was there to see generation 3, the very beginning
of 3,
through my brother, because my brother is Kenny's generation. So he was breaking in Queens, right? But again, back then, my brother called it rocking. That's how I remember it, right? So
yeah,
him and his friends from Corona, Queens would rock in my parents' living room, like right there. We had linoleum floors actually, and they would break in my parents' living room. And my
automatic
dad,
linoleum floors.
Automatic, right? And my dad, God rest his soul, he passed away in October. He's the one that started. Thank you, man. He's the one that started DJing in the family. He's the first DJ of the family. So my brother's friends from Corona, Queens would come to our house in Jackson Heights because we had the linoleum floor and we had the turntables and we had the cassettes that we would study of Curtis Blow and Grandmaster Flash and Eddie Chiba. So in having the cassettes and having the turntables, my brother in his own way was recreating what he was hearing on these cassettes, and his friends introduced him to the dance. So that was Kenny's era, 77. So I'm 7 years old, 8 years old, watching it literally in my living room. And we would go to places like churches, like the basement floor of a church. The head priest of a church would be like, let's give these kids something to do, an outlet to get this energy out of them so that they're not out on the street committing crimes. You know what I mean? So we would go to churches, break in churches. We would break in the lunchroom at school, in hallways of our buildings, wherever there was a floor that we could spin on. You know what I'm saying? And so that's Ken's generation, my brother's generation. Generation 3 in Ken's words. So starting 1977, and then I started breaking, believe it or not, in 79. I'm like 8 years old. I started learning how to break, and by 81, I was going to USA roller skating rink and watching Rocksteady fucking battle dudes in my neighborhood. Like I'm there as a kid watching it. You know what I'm saying? And I battle kids. There was a spot, real quick, and I'll wrap this up, called The Lost Battalion on Queens Boulevard. And it was a youth center. You would go there and play basketball, and you would go there and break. And I met Large Professor in the early 90s, and he ended up telling me that he would go there and break. So you had all of these different places, whether it was a youth center, a church, schools, where you would go and get down, because again, we were kids. We couldn't go to the Roxy like that. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't go to clubs.
Yeah.
So we would break wherever, and if you had to, you would get cardboard, walk it to a block, or walk it to someone's block, or walk it to a park, tape it to the ground, and break on cardboard. You know, like, so that's definitely, I would say I'm generation 4 then. 4.
Well, you know, I've said second gen many times, but you know, I stay involved in understanding the reality of what it is. You know, like I would say this, I would say 3 for a specific reason, but I've said second in the past. I've said that in interviews, but what I'll say is this, just to really clarify things, it was the winter of '78. It was the winter of '78. Or the winter of '79, when I got into breaking. Like seriously, like I seen it, but you know, when I started doing it, so I have to clarify that just on documentation on the record.
Yo, Ken, one more question, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking to you about this. What were the B-boys like? I know Zulu King started in '75 November, right? TBB.
Okay. Who told you that?
This is from what I'm. Charlie Rock interviews Charlie Rock saying that
from Charlie. Okay. Oh, Charlie.
You know what I'm saying? Right? That's the way I'm understanding it. So, and I'm glad that you actually stopped me and was like, who told you that? Because my thing is, if Charlie Rock, from what I know, is an original Zulu King, and he's saying that he started breaking in '75 at Cool Herc parties. And earlier you were like, yo, 73, 74. I'm like, but who's doing it in 73, 74 that we could say is first generation? Because I always thought Charlie Rock was a part of the first generation, which would then make you second generation.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I know about Charlie. I never met Charlie. We're talking about CHOLLY, Rock.
Yes, sir.
Because from my neighborhood was Charlie Rock, which is the mentors of Frosty Freeze, Charlie Rock and Jose Ortiz.
Right.
These are Rock City crew members. They also from the Spades. They baby Spades, Sundance. We talk about the Black Spades. We talk about this, right? So that's Charlie. You know, they were all Spades up there, man. You were a baby. Right. You were, you know, you was in the gang. There's people in my neighborhood in Manhattan. Mike Dominguez, one of the best dancers I ever met. He was a Black Spade. So, you know, it was that time period, right? But, you know, not everybody was a dancer. Motherfuckers was gangsters. Motherfuckers are thugs. They didn't want to dance, would you? So it was the individuals. Follow me? So the Zulu King thing was the dancers of the Zulu Nation. So we're talking about this Bambaata's thing. Because when you say Zulu Nation, Zulu anything, you say Bambaata. Follow me? I was the Zulu King in 1979, 1980.
Peace,
81, King. I think 81 I became a Zulu King because Rocksteady we was on the thing. We was doing our business. Dudes knew. Bam was like, yo, come through, let's chill. You know, so I was a Zulu King for a minute. And I get that, you know. But, you know, we were still Rocksteady crew. We were Rocksteady Zulu Kings.
Right.
We were supporting the Zulu Nation and the foundation of the culture. Because that's Zulu Nation started hip-hop culture. You cannot say the word hip-hop culture without saying Zulu Nation.
Word up.
This shit ain't from 73.
Right.
We know what it is, but when you say those words, terminologies, hip-hop was coined that term in the 80s. It was not from the 70s.
Yeah,
you follow me? Even though hip-hop was already bubbling.
They taught us that.
They taught us that
in They taught us that in Zulu, man. They said that in the early days, Rocksteady was Zulu. Period. That was it. There was no like when I came on board, that was one of the first things they taught me in the green books and everything. They was like, yo,
green
back
books?
in the day, yeah.
Wow.
If it was Rocksteady, it was Zulu. That was it.
Yo, we were the fucking beads, man. People don't know about the Zulu beads, man. That shit'll get you fucked up in the world.
Yeah.
Straight up, you wear that shit, motherfuckers knew what it was. Excuse my language, man. I'm
Nah,
getting
you
excited
good,
because
you good.
I'm reflecting on my young days, man, when we used to wild out. You know, I was a bad Muggsy. I was a dude, you know, I ain't pay attention in school. But ultimately, with the Zulu Nation, that consciousness was very important for me. Young brother coming up. When I went to those Zulu meetings, that shit was powerful. And I questioned everything. I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? But you know what? To this day, what they were saying, to this day right now, I'm saying these motherfuckers knew what it was already. They was already educated. Yo, I remember Zulu Nation when there was only 12 things on the page. The lessons was 12 things.
Wow.
And I wish I could have saved that page as a paper.
I got it.
Anyway,
I got a
long
copy
story
of it.
short, yo, breaking with the Zulu Kings and all that shit, man. Yeah, you talking about these dudes, man. They say their names, Beaver. They say these names. You know, I know about Pow Wow getting down. He was nice with it. You know, I remember going to those meetings with you know, B.O., you know what I'm saying, and Biggs. You know, I was a little kid, man, but I was just like a shy little kid, like scared, you know, in a sense. You know, I was in the Bronx Ripper projects, you know what I'm saying? But I was with my crew. But, you know, they gave us that love and they was trying to educate us, man. And that's the beauty of all that. So as B-boys coming up, you know, we also we were thinking mentally also. We was artistic and we were great and we following with the fucking Bam and Jazzy J. Come on, man. I mean, I could say names. So we following this musical fucking greatness and fun shit. But we're also getting educated. Zulu Kings, man. That's what it was about. Yeah.
Knowledge, man. The fifth element.
Yeah.
Yo, real quick, I just want to just put a little bow on this. So, going off all that, Ken, you still feel like you're more third generation and not second, and that.
I mean, I just don't want to. I don't want to play myself like that. You follow me? You know, like seriously, I feel like I'm second, but when I really look at it clearly and continue in my research, I feel like if I started in 78, that was like, because the A1s had a quick run.
And that's what, 75 to 77? You think 75 to 77?
They can speak on that. They can speak on that.
Yeah. I got you.
Military, drugs, the ghetto,
no
hood,
doubt.
the gangs,
Yeah.
family life, marriage.
Yep.
Come on, bro. A lot of shit. People got to keep it moving. You know, like you just can't be a B-boy. Like it's easy to be a B-boy in my era because it's something cool. That shit was brand new back then, but you still had to walk down the street. You still had to make a living. You still had to live your life. So I can't speak on the A1s.
Gotcha.
I know who they are. But they can define their generation.
I respect
that.
They
can define if they went from 72 to 75. I can tell you something. Like once again, and I'm being really, you know, just sincere with myself to not play myself. I feel like my generation is the most powerful that really brought this whole art form together. If it wasn't for that moment, because everybody stopped. Think about this. People say it. All the dancers say, that shit, you know, it was a thing. We grabbed the shit when it was dying. It was about to die. And we grabbed it. And I'm from Manhattan. I'm not from the Bronx. I'm born in Brooklyn, raised in Harlem, uptown, Manhattan, Upper West Side. So I can't talk about the Bronx experience. But I'll tell you, I learned from the Bronx because this is where it came from. So when it filtered down, like it went to all the boroughs, let's not get it fucked up. Everybody, we got big families out here in the world, right?
Right.
You know, people fucking felt the energy, man. You go to a birthday party in Brooklyn, go to Queens and Bronx, you know, you got families. People see shit and they go back home with what they see. The radio, once again, the radio didn't just play in one neighborhood. Fucking radio played everywhere.
Right.
You didn't only hear that song somewhere. You heard that shit all fucking day. So dancers are dancers. You understand? So, you know, with me personally, I say I'm gonna lean on that third generation just to be safe.
So generation one placed the first brick, and then over time,
I think
dance-
1 and 2 are pivotal.
Right.
1 and 2 are pivotal.
Right.
Because 1 was a lot of sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
1 was a lot of, from talk conversations with my brothers, man. They telling stories and shit. It's almost like rock. You call it rocking, right? Rocking. They call it freestyle too. Up in the BX. They call them both. I've talked to dancers from the 60s that said we called it rock. And they say, yo, I'm from here, but we called it freestyle. And they doing the same dance when I look at them. I'm like, y'all doing the same shit. So terminologies are neighborhood-wise, right? It's language. It's language. Neighborhood language, right? So with me, like I'm saying, to me, that crazy footwork shit on the floor going spastic, that's the birth. And if the twins, and I know the twins, I met the twins and I spoke with the twins at the graffiti hall, at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes,
we had a
I
panel.
remember. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look, respect to those brothers, man. But they didn't get dirty.
Right.
They
They weren't
said
doing
it.
head spins. They
They
weren't
said
doing
we
head
don't get
spins.
dirty.
They weren't doing windmills.
So now let's talk about what they said.
Right.
Follow it? So, they were
Right.
clean. And I get that because when I was 12, I didn't give a fuck about being clean. I was with pro kids. You can see the pictures, man. I was dirty, motherfucking concrete, dirt, wherever the fuck you want to get down. But see what you're saying now, that generation is a specific thing. I think that groundwork and that crazy fucking craziness, which is called footwork, that shit, when that shit came into play, I think it was the mid-70s. I think it was that middle. And then we grabbed onto it and we added some shit to it. We added the futuristic shit. We added the possibilities. We added the body parts. The mediums changed. So that's me.
No
I'm
doubt.
sorry, I'm rambling, man.
Not at all. Not at all.
I'm gonna keep it. I'm not gonna talk too much, man.
So knowing that we can't really speak on what we weren't there to see personally, but because like for me researching, I always kept hearing Spy's name come up.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties a bunch of stuff together. Like as far as, like I remember him saying like I'm black and Latino, like this whole thing. But it's kind of hard to go back and like if you weren't there, even for the people that were there, it's like going back and saying like, what'd you eat for dinner 3 weeks ago? It's
True. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it seems like talking to people, they try and remember it the best they can, but it's always through their point of view. So there's like 1,000 different stories from all these different people, but it's like to take actually what everybody's saying and kind of take it into context. And of course, some people are probably putting a little something extra on it or not really saying it right, but it's like trying to wade through everything all the time.
And I sympathize for people in the community worldwide on the internet. I get questions all the time, like many of us do, right? So, look, it's about sincerity, it's honesty, and it's about humility.
Word.
I have no fucking reason to lie to you guys right now. There's no fucking reason for me to fabricate a truth. And if I was a greedy fuckface and had no fucking history, I would lie to you right now. To fucking capitalize on fucking people that are vulnerable. This is the bullshit, man. And I see this in my community. Motherfuckers be lying. I'll keep cursing, I'm sorry. But people be lying and shit. Motherfuckers is painting they shit different than what it really was. And that's why my research is official. Because I talk to people in the street. I talk to people. I go back. We've been doing the research. Me and Burn One, my big brother right there, Brooklyn Styles, understand Burn. We did the homework. We did the research. We didn't put it online, but we questioned answers. We said, wait, you said you were the first one to do that? Oh, hold on. And we took the time. And you know what? We found a dude from the same block as dude was saying. He's like, man, get the... People that are not hip-hop. They're like, I know that motherfucker. He's lying his ass off. So look, man, it boils down to this. And as a student like I am, like we all are, you have to cross-reference your information. You have to do your homework. You have to do your research. You have to have these conversations. And half of what I say could be contested, of course. But I'm only going to tell you what I feel from my experience as a person in this art. That's the respect I have for my art.
That actually brings up a really good thing too, like with the saying about how you have to do the research and go out there and actually care about it and study it. Like as far as like the younger generation, whether it's b-boys, like kids just scratching, like it seems like a lot of them don't even like care to do the research. Have you guys noticed like a difference, like a shift?
Go ahead, guys.
I mean, I feel like we live in such a uber fast information age. And on top of that, we have access to these boxes, right? That allow us to connect with people instantly. As a result, this generation, in terms of hip hop, is more focused on getting out there and exposing their talents, and they're skipping over doing the due diligence, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So in my era, late 70s, early 80s, this is a mixtape I got, or it's actually not a mixtape, it's a live tape of Hollywood, Eddie Chiba, Flash, Curtis Blow, 1979, right? Back then, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have laptops, so information came to you in this slow burn style. And so you were able to digest what was happening on this tape over time and break it down to its last compound before you started trying it. And then once you figured out what was happening on this tape, then you made your own tapes and spread it amongst your friends at school. And then your name kind of grew from there. And then people, next thing you know, are asking you to DJ their birthday parties. And so you're DJing their birthday parties. And then gradually your name grows from there. I'm talking about myself, basically. You know, I went from DJing my junior high school dance in 1984 to battling in 1991. So for a time span of, let's say, 7 years, I was cultivating my skill as a DJ, building it, understanding myself, how I connected not just to music, but to these clunky machines behind me, these turntables. You know what I'm saying? Now, because things are moving so fast and people have these phones and they want to just upload their video instantly and have people from all over the world watch them do a routine, let's say, people aren't taking the time to educate themselves about what it is that they want people to see them do. So it's like, you want to showcase yourself creating this dope routine based on scratch techniques that you don't even know where they come from. You don't even know the names of these scratches, but you're doing them because you heard a DJ do it and now you're just teaching yourself. You couldn't do that in my time when I was coming up watching Ken Swift on David Letterman. It's like you received information in a very slow way. So as a result, your development happened over the course of years. You got kids now that buy a controller one day, they're watching a tutorial the next day, and then the third day they're posting videos of themselves doing what they saw in a tutorial. It's not, I don't know, I just don't feel like the substance in what we do is there anymore, because people aren't nerds about this shit and they don't really dive into the history, you know?
Man, so to kind of jump into the history, I know, Rob, that you have your book out, The City of Hip Hop, is that correct?
Yes, I wrote a book started writing it like in 2023 as we were approaching the 50th quote-unquote anniversary of hip-hop. I put quotations on there because I don't necessarily think you could attribute the birth of this complex culture to one day or one party. But I get that that's the consensus thought behind when hip hop started. But once we started to approach the 50th anniversary and all this crazy talk about there not being Latinos around in the beginning years of hip hop, in the formative years of this culture developing, I just got mad, to be honest with you, because I've sat with the likes of Ken Swift and I've sat with the likes of Grand Mixer DST. Grand Wizard Theodore has come to my house, has sat in this studio, and I've just picked his brain about all kind of shit for hours. So knowing what I know and being the historian of this culture that I am, and then logging onto Twitter and reading a comment that dismisses the involvement of Latinos in hip hop, being Colombian myself, right? And the son of immigrants, that shit just didn't sit well with me. So I started writing this book, and after about 6 or 7 months or so, I had the outline of the book. But although I consider myself a pretty decent writer, I wasn't sure if what I wrote was following the proper protocol of what a book should be. And so I tapped a colleague of mine named Rasul Moat. He's a professor at NC State to help me finish the book. And he did an amazing job of just stringing my thoughts together in a cohesive way. He added a lot of context, historical context on New York. Ken referenced earlier how New York City in the 1970s was a cesspool, you know? Financially crippled, redlining was taking place. You know, part of the reason why families like Ken's lived in Harlem was because banks were practicing redlining, literally isolating black and brown people to certain areas in New York City. And it's not a coincidence that these happen to be the areas that gave birth to this amazing culture, you know? And so I wanted to talk about hip hop, not from a perspective of the first breakers were black, the first dude that rapped was black, the first DJ was black. I wanted to zoom out and get people that were fixated on this narrow-minded narrative that hip-hop belongs to one specific race. I was trying with the book to get people to zoom out and see, well, why were people picking up a microphone? Why were kids like Ken ripping up cardboard and taping it to concrete in parks and dancing on fucking cardboard, bro? Like, that shit just gives me chills, because it's like these kids weren't in dance studios. They were in the street expressing themselves, you know? It just felt like the timing was right for me to do my part to give context on this culture. Context that I feel was missing in 2023, you know, on the cusp of us finishing this whole crazy pandemic. This new narrative started arising that I never heard of, you know, and it scared me and it angered me, because I was around in the 1980s and I saw what happened. I saw what happened to the breaking element of the culture. I saw what happened to the graffiti element of the culture. And I was just like, nah, not on my watch. And it's not to say that my voice is the voice or the, you know, authority on what the history of this culture is. We've all been acknowledging that we all have different perspectives. I have mine, and I just wanted to share it with people because I feel like there were factions of people, acronym brigades as I call them, that were making this about black and white and not about economics and poverty. And you don't have to be black to be poor in New York. You know what I'm saying? And poor kids started this culture.
Man, that's a lot of like great information. So they can check out the book. It's called The City of Hip Hop.
Yes. You could order it anywhere you get your books. Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Wherever you get your books, you could order it. I wrote it with Rasul Moat, and I just want to give him big thanks for helping me write the book, because I wouldn't be here talking about it if it wasn't for him.
That's what's up, man. So definitely check that book out. You also got your school, Rob. I know we're kind of running out of time right now. I think we could keep going this conversation for a long time. But is there any last things you guys would like stuff you guys got going on? I know you got the school, like I said, Rob. Anything you got going on, Kenny?
I'm good, man. Just trying to be, focused, and it's 2026, man. It's interesting times in the world. So I'm trying to stay focused and just do art. I'm grateful, and there's cool things coming up. So, I just everybody knows what I do when I post it. So, got some cool shit going on. Yeah, they got, look, all right, I'll say it, man. So Red Bull signed me as a cultural ambassador. They gave me a contract for this year, so, which is a great thing, and I'm happy about that, for the support, and being able to have a platform to talk about what I talk about with the art of breaking. So I'm excited about that. That's a good start for my year, which came through, in January. So that's mainly a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be supporting the BC1 events and so forth. And at the same time, just being Kenny. So I hope to see you guys in the future somewhere in the world, And if you come to LA, come through to the study, man. This is the study right here, man.
Ken, congratulations on that, bro. I'm happy to hear that you're an ambassador for Red Bull, man, because the dance needs to be preserved, and I can't think of a better ambassador than yourself, brother. So congrats on that.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. As for me, I have a DJ school called Brolic Army DJ School, and I teach people worldwide through online tutorials, the art of DJing, but I also talk a lot about the culture of hip-hop. I reference how DJs and breakers have that symbiotic connection that we were referencing and talking about earlier. For me, it's important to not just talk about how to be a DJ, the techniques involved, shopping for records, what gear you should use. I take advantage of the platform that I have with Brolic Army DJ School to also inform people about the culture so that they have an appreciation for what they're learning, because again, we live in a world now where hip-hop has become this commodity, and with social media, it's easy to exploit it. Like, yeah, I have a school and I teach DJing courses, and if you pay this much amount of money a month, you'll learn these techniques, but it's like, who created the techniques and why? You know what I'm saying? I just don't want, as a DJ, I don't want my element to become a cash cow and turn into this thing that people just do to suck it of the resources that it has, right? And consists of. I want people that enter the DJ element of this culture to embrace it beyond the idea of, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna make money. No, do this to help preserve the art, to keep it going. And so I take advantage of my school to educate people on not just DJing, but the greater culture of hip hop. Brolic Army DJ School, super proud of the platform. And beautiful. I'm also on the road this year with Mr. Sinister, my partner from the Executioners. We're going to be opening up in May for the Far Side at Brooklyn Bowl here in New York City. That's going to be dope, and we're looking to put together a European tour in September. And between now and then, we have a bunch of other stuff going on. I'll be going to Connecticut, DC, Baltimore in April. So yeah, man, it's a lot going on, and super grateful, man, that, you know, I'm still standing. That kid that saw Ken Swift on David Letterman figured out his own path with this culture, you know, and is doing this, man. Yeah, it's a blessing for sure.
Yeah, peace and love and respect, man. Peace and love and respect every time. Seven's the G.
Man, thank you guys for being on here with us today, man. We really appreciate y'all and everything that you've contributed to the culture.
Lord, thank you.
But on that note, I think we're gonna have to wrap this episode. Thank you everybody for tuning into the Skratcher Podcast. We'll see you next time.